Peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman. Today, you guys, this story that we're going to cover today gives me mixed emotions. Today, we're going to talk about the scandal at the HBCU, Howard University in Washington, D.C., where over 500 students were just unenrolled because of some financial aid and account issues. Now, we're going to show some clips and we're going to look at some clips to get a perspective from the students and to get, I guess, the official statement from the school, even though they have a communications department, but they're not communicating. But I want to get some disclosures and some bona fides out of the way. One, I attended an HBCU, so I'm very well familiar with this experience. And two, the commentary that I provide on this topic is going to be spicy. Some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to be met with a lot of cognitive dissonance and they are going to tune out. And then there's going to be a huge demographic, particularly people who look like me, who are going to say there are no lies detected. We may not like what she's saying, but it doesn't make it any less true. So let's go ahead and take a look at this news story first that brings you guys up to speed, and I'll come back and give some commentary.
Getting into your dream college, then finding out just weeks before school starts that you've been unenrolled. That's what happened to hundreds of incoming Howard University students yesterday. Several of them showed News 4 copies of an email that they received from the university saying they had missed a payment deadline on July 10th. And as a result, they'd lost their place in the freshman class. News 4's Amy Cho was following this story for us tonight.
Jim, certainly such a chaotic situation as those students are trying to figure out their next steps. Many of them say they were waiting on financial aid and scholarships, which typically do not get sent out until August. Within the last hour, Howard University said it is reviewing those students' cases to see if reinstatement is an option. But with move-in week less than 2 weeks away, the students are now scrambling to figure out what to do.
Isabella Williams had already packed her truck and was supposed to start driving from Alabama to D.C. today. The incoming Howard freshman was scheduled to move in this weekend to start an early internship with the school's football team. But yesterday, she got a letter saying she had missed a July 10th payment deadline and no longer had a spot at Howard.
For us to suddenly be unenrolled from what is most of our dream schools is heartbreaking. It's confusing.
Williams says she had scholarships to cover the rest of the balance and had sent documents to Howard informing them the money was coming in August.
I put in so many hours, late nights to apply for scholarships to make sure that I could go to the school of my dreams comfortably, and to have that ripped away isn't fair.
And she's not the only one.
I repped them so hard. Okay, I repped them so hard, and I just don't feel like I'm being supported or repped back.
I've graduated early. I graduated my junior year, and I had a 4.0, and I did all of that just to get into Howard University. And now I can't go to Howard University.
Marley Cofield says as of July 11th, her account balance was negative, and Howard actually owed her money because she had more aid and scholarships than tuition would have cost. Howard University declined our request for an interview, but sent News 4 a statement saying they did repeated outreach to students and families between March and July, informing them of the payment deadlines. They said the outreach included emails, personalized financial aid information, videos, and prep sessions. The school also said in the statement, "We understand that the enrollment update that was issued yesterday is difficult and disappointing for students and their families, but that confirming enrollment is essential to planning academic programs, housing, financial aid, and student support services." The school says it'll give students a refund for any payments and scholarship dollars they had already sent. However, the deposits they put down for tuition and housing, $800 worth, that's non-refundable.
All of my deposits, I had to make GoFundMes to raise that money because my family is low income. So we just had to come up with the money out of nowhere by these certain dates, which we've done.
Howard University told the students who were unenrolled they can apply again next year as a transfer student. We asked them if that's something they would consider. The answer was no.
What's to say that they won't do it again or they do something else?
I don't think that's fair to myself. I don't think it's fair to switch universities.
Now, even if the students do get reinstated, the question remains if they will have housing when they get there. Howard tells me they have started offering up the housing spots to students who had been on the housing wait list. So certainly so many questions left to be answered here as these students are trying to figure out what comes next.
All right. Well, I particularly wanted you guys to see this news clip because it gave a perspective kind of sort of from the school, and then you got to hear from some students express their frustration. So the first thing I want to do is, as someone who attended an HBCU, Spelman College to be specific, I do want to express some empathy. And the reason why I'm coming with the empathy first, because Auntie's gonna come later with the reality check. But on some level, you do need to have some empathy because I understand what these young people are going through. My personal experience, I can see myself in a lot of these young people. They live in this idealized world where they want to attend. Many of them said this is their dream school. But unfortunately, there's a disconnect and between the reasons why this is their dream school and then the reality. I was educated. I went to boarding schools. My mother sacrificed and spent a lot of money to send me, to one of the top independent, high schools in the country. We were absolutely low income, and the expectation was when it came down time to plan for college, I noticed the experience was vastly different with my white peers. It was different than with my black peers. On the white side, it was an expectation that you planned ahead to go to a school, and then you went to a school that was in your budget. And if the school wasn't in your budget, you would work with your college counselors and all of the faculty in order to make sure that you had adequate scholarships and funding, so that when it came time for you to be, when the acceptance letters started coming in, you genuinely had an idea and a pathway to pay for school. What I noticed on the black side is we do things a little different. A lot of the young people, when they talk about their reasons for why they want to go to Howard, it's really for the status and the symbolism. They're not saying, oh, I want to go to Howard because they have an amazing engineering program. It's one of the top in the country, and it gives me the best bang for my buck because I'm going to go into engineering, and now they've messed up my plan. That's usually not how it works in the Black community. When it comes to going to an HBCU, we go to an HBCU for the symbolism versus the substance. Many of us grew up watching A Different World, and we believe that our college experience is going to be that. At least that's my generation, because I'm Generation X. And now people in my generation we have children that are college aged, and we have a nostalgia and memories of what our HBCU experience was like. But I don't believe we are adequately preparing our children with a pathway for what it means to go to college today. Why are you going to college today? What is your plan to pay for college today? And then after college, then what? Right? They're not counseled appropriately. So many of them are going to Howard because an auntie or a cousin or their mama or somebody went to Howard, and they're like, it's family tradition, we're going here. And they don't take into account how much the school costs. The other issue with this is that there is a culture amongst the HBCU community, and people who attended an HBCU know that I am not lying, that they are incredibly unorganized. Okay? The fact that this made the news, I wasn't shocked because I thought this happened every year. Every year at HBCUs, people get unenrolled, and the communication often crosses wires, and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. You spend hours in the bursar's office trying to get answers. You can't talk to people on the phone. It's just one big chaotic mess. And when I was in school at an HBCU, the prevailing narrative was, When and if you survive this HBCU experience, the character that is built because of the hell that you had to go through every single semester and every single school year just to graduate, they focused on how we tried to turn it into a positive. Like, we would gaslight ourselves and say, I'm proud that I went to an HBCU because of the character building experiences that I had there. When in reality, what we're saying is that, yes, I enjoyed my college experience, but it was hell dealing with administration, trying to get a grade change, trying to get my account and my scholarships and the financial aid all situated, always having a balance and not knowing how I was going to pay for it. All of the semesters that I sat out versus all of the semesters that I was actually actively enrolled. I mean, it's just one headache after another. And at some point, we need to ask ourselves a very fundamental question. Why is attending an HBCU so hard? Why is it that these schools come with the price tag that they come with, but the level of stress, the disorganization, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, your worn out knees because you're just praying to find a way or make a way, Lord Jesus, baby Jesus, and Moses, fix it. Like, that's what you're going through. The anxiety is on 10. There's so much uncertainty. At some point, we got to ask ourselves, is it really worth it? Like, is the return of investment in spending all of that money, time, resources, the whole family's involved just to get you to matriculate through this school, when you actually get the degree, is the return on investment worth it? Well, as someone who actually, because of a situation just like this, who decided to drop out and cut my losses, I am arguing no. I have not shared this story, but I've mentioned on here on the channel that I'm absolutely a college dropout, and I am proud of it. Okay, I dropped out of Spelman College halfway through because I just ran out of money. My college education wasn't adequately capitalized. It wasn't funded, and I started looking at the math, and the math wasn't mathing, meaning as an 18-year-old, starry-eyed young adult, Spelman College was my dream school. When I say it was my dream school, I'm saying that I got accepted to Spelman, early decision. I knew before spring semester, I knew before I went home for Christmas break in high school, in boarding school, that I was going to Spelman the next August. Okay, the December of 1996, I had already been accepted by, I think, October or November. I had been accepted to Spelman early decision. And so it was absolutely my dream school. My college counselor, I mean, I was maybe like one of three Black people in my graduating class. So she really didn't know much about HBCUs, and she couldn't understand. She's like, you're from New York. Why don't you want to go to NYU? Or, what about some schools here in Virginia, Old Dominion, or UVA? Or what about UNC Chapel Hill or Duke? Or, she's looking at my SAT scores and she's trying to counsel me appropriately, but I had tunnel vision. I wasn't listening to a word that college counselor said because I said, ma'am, I am Denise Huxtable. You didn't get the memo. I'm going to Spelman College. I said, my daddy lives in Atlanta and it's going to be all good. And she asked me, did I know how much it cost? I said, no, it did not matter. I'm going to Spelman. Well, the stars that were in my eyes dissipated very quickly. When I got to Spelman, I did I did the summer science program, not the early college. Well, they had early college, but they had some summer science program. I did that, and trying to navigate, now that was free, but trying to navigate the financial aid process and trying to learn the difference between a subsidized loan and an unsub loan, and a Pell Grant and a this, like, I was confused. I was confused. I didn't understand the process. The people in the financial aid office were no help. They assumed you knew what you were talking about, and they would talk down to you like you were slow and retarded when technically when it came to this topic, you were, but none of that mattered. You're on your own now. You've got to figure it out. Nobody cares that this is your dream school, and nobody cares that you don't understand the process. You are assuming responsibility for all the decisions that you make here on out. And here is my point. In HBCU culture, statistically, now I don't have it in front of me, but I'm just riffing. Y'all can fact check me if you want to, and if I'm wrong, that's fine. But within HBCU culture, the truth of the matter is it takes us longer to matriculate and graduate from an HBCU than it does if you choose to go to a PWI. If you went to an HBCU, you know what I'm talking about. 4 years, most of us are not getting out in 4 years. It's more like 6 or 7. Okay, like there were so many Jaleesas at Spelman and Morehouse. If you know, that's an inside joke. If you watch the show A Different World, you know what I'm talking about when I say there were so many Jaleesas. That's the 26-year-old that she been in school so long because she ain't never really had the money to go, and now she like 26, 27, and she used to be your RA, and now she's the RD, and now she's just dean of the whole housing department. But she's enrolled and she's a student because it takes that long to graduate. Why? You're in school one semester, then sometimes you got to sit out too so you can work and get the money to pay for the balance from the previous semester. And it's a cycle. It's a cycle that never ends. And so if you went to an HBCU, you know that 9 times out of 10, it took you longer to graduate, not because of the academic vigor. It wasn't that. It took you longer to graduate because of the money. You want to go to this school that's overpriced and out of your budget, but you want to go there so bad that you're willing to do whatever it takes. So that means you're working and you're in school, but you can only take so many hours a semester because you got to like really, really work a lot in order to be able to afford to live and go to school. Well, the problem with that is that you can't take the sufficient amount of hours that a full-time student would be taking so you can get out in 4 years. Well, unless you kill yourself. And then let's add another layer to the HBCU experience. You cannot forget the Greek life. So many of us, you go to an HBCU, you already are broke and you ain't got no money, right? Your parents didn't have a 529 plan. They didn't plan for this. They just know my baby's going to Howard or my baby's going to Spelman. We don't have no money. We don't know how we going to pay for it, but we are going to allow our child to get in up to the eyeballs in debt just so we can say my baby went to this HBCU. I'm telling you, it's the symbolism over the substance. Now, let's talk about the Greek life. You go to an HBCU, not all, but a lot of young people go there because they are attracted to the vibrant Greek life. Well, if you're going to participate in Greek life and humiliate and demoralize yourself so that you actually get accepted, that's not free. That is several thousands of dollars on top of your tuition and your room and your board and your meal plan and your books. So now you're further in debt because you want the symbolism and the substance of going to this school. And now you want to pledge your life and your sacred honor, your love, your peace, and your happiness to pledge a sorority or a fraternity just because it's the status and the symbolism. So not only then we can have a conversation about the idolatry and all the other issue, but this is another layer of financial burden that a lot of young people take on because they're not thinking about their future. They're just thinking about the symbolism over the substance and what it means to just have attended this school. But then something happens, reality sets in. If you are blessed to graduate and get the degree, now you're trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with my life. Most of these young people these days, it wasn't so much so the case when I was in school, because you could, with a bachelor's degree, you could get an entry level job and work your way up, or a lot of these financial investment firms like Solomon Smith Barney and Arthur Anderson back then, they would hire a recent college grad and start you off with maybe like 60 grand a year, and you were fine back then. Today, though, now a bachelor's degree, a lot of these young people don't have any experience or tangible skills. So most of them have a degree, but they got a job at a local call center somewhere dealing with disgruntled customers about their insurance premium. That wasn't the job that they envisioned themselves having, and it definitely wasn't the salary that they envisioned themselves having. But they now see that this degree in Africana studies or this degree in psychology doesn't have the market value that they thought it did. And just because they have the degree, they're unable to get a job that allows them to make enough money to take care of themselves, let alone to be able to pay for and service the debt that they incurred while they were in school. So you come out, you might be making $30,000 a year, but your student loan payment is $1,500 a month or $800 a month. Well, there's your rent right there. So now you're living at home with your mama, you're depressed, you can't go nowhere, you can't have hot girl summer. It's like, these are the unintended consequences that I have seen so many young Black young people go through, because when it comes to making decisions about college, it is symbolism over substance. It's the status of it all. So here's a piece of advice that I'd like to share with my audience to see if this can help. Listen, I heard Black conservative perspective say this. Some of these young people do not realize it now. They're hurting. They feel like their dreams are crushed and shattered. To me, you dodged a bullet. To me, so many of you should be making a wiser choice as it relates to your college education by doing one of two things. Either go to a community college that you can afford, go to a state school where you get some in-state tuition and can live at home. Some of y'all really do belong in the trades. That's just a fact. And then some of you really are entrepreneurs at heart, and you just haven't figured out what it is that you're good at and how you can monetize it and earn a living for yourself. There's more than one pathway to success. But sadly, within the Black American community, there's a level of indoctrination there that many of us have been inculcated in to make us believe that a part of being Black and being able to relate with the Black experience means you have to have attended an HBCU so you can have that on your resume. But in the end, it doesn't really have the value on the back end that you believe that it has. It may have some social capital value, but not real life. Oh, had I not went to this HBCU, this, and this wouldn't have happened. No. It's too much debt. A lot of these students are over $300,000 in debt. And that doesn't even include the Parent Plus loans. The parents are in debt. Like, everybody's in debt just so that you could fulfill your dream of wanting to go to this school. But you can't articulate any legitimate reason as to why it needed to be this school, other than it's because I feel that's where I'm supposed to be and I want the experience and it's just going to be fun. And I can't, listen, those are not legitimate reasons to go into that much debt for higher education when you have the advent of AI and just being self-taught, and you can acquire so many skills for a fraction of the cost. At this point, I don't even see the value in going specifically to an HBCU. The last thing I'll say about this. Now, I know this video was about what happened with the enrollment at Howard, but here's the truth. Here's what I believe happened. Because a lot of these HBCUs are poorly run, the administration is horrible, and then the financial aid department is even worse. Their forecast was off, and they probably accepted more students than they had spaces for. And they needed to figure out how to weed some of them out so that they would have adequate housing for a certain number of students. And the litmus test was, oh, if you have a balance by this date, then we got to unenroll you because it's too many of y'all. We can't accommodate all of you guys. And so it's unfortunate. I saw where the school said that, listen, we sent out multiple communications, we sent out emails, we did videos, we did this. The girl who had the balance of over $2,000, I noticed that the deadline, if I'm not mistaken, was July 10th. And the news reported that as of July 11th, she showed an overage on her account. Now, to me, that's kind of petty. And what probably happened is a scholarship kind of came through and got posted on the 11th. But if they didn't see, if she had a balance on the 10th, when they ran that report, her name was on the list. She didn't make the cut. That's probably what happened. But this is interesting that this has happened, but I am not shocked because I understand the culture of HBCUs. They are not well run and managed. And also, they rely so heavily on federal funding for financial aid because most of their students are they don't have the money to really afford to go to these schools. So they're relying on Pell Grants. Nothing wrong with scholarships, but it's that federal aid money. And then the delay in processing with that, coupled with the fact that because so many of their students are on federal financial aid, that is part of the reason why the school costs so much. Whenever the federal government is involved, these schools can bloat and inflate the price tag to attend their schools because they know a huge percentage of their student body is going to need federal aid. And the government it's not the open market. The government, if you say, oh, it costs this, the government's just like, oh, okay, well, here's your funding. And the money is guaranteed. These are, subsidized loans. You'll charge whatever you want. So now the value of your degree is really low value, but you've spent all of this money and now you are in debt. Well past your childbearing years. I mean, I know some people that are in their 50s still paying off student loan debt. And I know a lot of parents who are older than me that are still paying the college debt of their now adult children from the Parent Plus loan. It's just it's a bad deal. And I know a lot of these students are disappointed and they are upset, and this was their dream school, but perhaps the adults in their life can help them, guide them, and give them some wisdom to say, I know this was your dream school, but it was a dream based on for all the wrong reasons. Let's get you more focused and centered on your future rather than the college experience that you were hoping you were going to enjoy. You need to be thinking about the future and how you're going to take care of yourself and how much money you're going to make when you get out of college and versus how much debt you're going to be in. Like, you don't want to sign up for this. Don't make the mistake that I did. So I said all that to say, yes, I am a proud HBCU college dropout. I realized halfway through that I couldn't afford Spelman and there was no money. There was no trust fund anywhere to help me figure that out. And I didn't intend at first to drop out. I intended to kind of just sit out for a while and work. But once I started working and realized that I was able to acquire skills and I could go straight into the marketplace and I started a successful insurance career, I was like, why am I going back to finish this sociology degree again? Like, I mean, on the open market, a sociology degree is not even worth that much. And I'd already spent $16,000. I was already $16,000 in student loan debt at that point. This was eons ago. So I said all that to say it's unfortunate what has happened to these students. I know they are sad, but this is not uncommon. HBCUs, from an administrative standpoint, are not well run. And a lot of times, a lot of the compassion is just not there. And these students are receiving a rude awakening. Nobody cares if this was your dream school. If you had a balance on July 10th, the sob story and the baby violin, they do not care. Let this be a sober reminder to you that you need to be responsible for your future and you need to take proactive steps to guard against something like this. Go to a cheaper school. So that way, you're not having to find a way or make a way, as we say in the HBCU world. I'm telling you, you probably dodged a bullet. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that a PWI is better because the white folks are running it. What I'm saying is, on our side within the Black community, we already know the deficiencies that are there. And until they take a look within to figure out how to fix and correct those deficiencies, it's not going to change. So I'm curious to know, what do you think? What do you think about all of these students? 500 of them at least. They're not going to be able to roll in Howard, and now they got to figure out what they're going to do. Do you think they dodged a bullet? Do you believe that they should maybe spend a year and then try to come back as a transfer student? Or, some of them just need to cut their losses and go figure out something more cost effective to do as it relates to their future. But whatever it is that you guys think, leave me your comments down in the box below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.